just walking into this job site, when I pulled in, like, nice truck with your own dump, you got an excavator sitting here, you got your ditch witch sitting here, like, you're set up for efficiency. Pretty impressive what you're doing with a one-man band. It's the kind of revenue per person that you're cranking out is rare.
It's efficient with me, myself, and I.
It is, yeah. Can't argue with that.
And extremely flexible to be with the kids or be with the family or go camping and do what we want to do.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cost of Doing Business podcast. I am again in Eastern Pennsylvania here with Kevin Robinson out on the job site. And it's, I don't know, what is the percentage of completion? 70, 80% at this point, or is it?
This phase is completed.
Yeah.
The front is just getting underway.
It's just getting started. Okay, so we're sitting in the back right now where this is all done. But yeah, the front and the side is all active job site. So it's kind of cool to see actually some complete, some active, you know.
Work in progress.
Perfect place to be. But give us a little rundown. Introduce yourself, your company, like what kind of projects and what kind of work you do so that everybody listening kind of gets a sense of what your business looks like.
Kevin Robinson, owner of Robinson Outdoors. We service Chester County, Pennsylvania. Design, build firm, and maintenance as well. Started in 2022. So this is our fourth season running. I'm sole owner operator. I've got no employees, just me, myself, and I. One man, well, more of a one-man wrecking crew than a one-man band. You know, production and efficiency is kind of where, you know, I like to be.
Yeah.
Always productive and looking for efficiencies everywhere I can.
Yeah.
Do basically just design build jobs. Your front walkway, a whole front renovation. Where we're sitting right now, this outdoor kitchen, fire pit, patio, plants, lights, that's kind of where we like to be. We'll do smaller jobs, things around $10,000 and under, but I typically don't go plant a 1 or 2 tree type thing, or don't get into many spring cleanups.
So it's more of the outdoor construction.
Yeah, outdoor living, and kind of get on the job, set up for a couple weeks, and kind of make a nice transformation.
Well, I can tell you, like, just walking into this job site, when I pulled in, like, nice truck with your own dump, you got an excavator sitting here, you got your ditch witch sitting here, like, you're set up for efficiency.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And just we were just having lunch, sitting here talking about getting to know each other a little bit more, and you were telling me about your, you know, kind of your business and your growth, and it's pretty impressive. I'll just say this for the record. It's pretty impressive what you're doing with a one-man band. It's the kind of revenue per person that you're cranking out is rare.
Yeah.
And so you need kudos for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's not easy, but I certainly don't kill myself.
Sure.
And that's, you know, how I get up every day is not, you know, waking up exhausted and shot. And there's days where you're tired, but you know, not overdoing it and knowing, you know, when to go hard and when to back off and kind of figure out the details. But that's part of, you know, being by yourself, is understanding how to get the most done in a day, and looking at those hours and saying, how am I going to do this in this amount of time with one person? You know, do I need to get a set of hands for a day and sub something out? But that's all part of the game. And
how often do you end up subbing stuff out, like percentage-wise?
Probably 5%.
Really?
Yeah, and that's, the bigger the job, the more I have room to sub out.
Yep.
Like in the front, I had somebody demo all the plants. Had someone sub out the cutting of the asphalt so that I can redo the cobblestones. Things that I don't really want to do that somebody else can do. And I kind of leave the detailed plantings and the stonework for myself, where I can kind of dial that in, and that's kind of my niche, and stick to that.
Yeah, and then that lets you free up your time to be, you know, on the things that matter.
Yeah.
Or be more productive.
Yeah.
You know, for as far as mechanizing how you work with your equipment stuff, what has been one of the most impactful things you've done for production and efficiency?
Probably say that the ditch witch. I bought that in year 2, ditch witch 1550, and that's like 2 guys. Easily 2 guys for me. You know, moving material. It's nimble on small job sites. You know, I can load trucks, I can unload trucks, get different attachments, move pallets around, move pallets right next to, you know, a walkway, so I'm, you know, not walking far to get pavers. The ditch switch, and I'd say second to now is now the switch and go. That helps a lot. Drop that body down.
Is that on this truck here?
That's on this truck.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So drop the body down, load right into it. You know, it's a mason dump fold down side, so I can use it like a flatbed. Put, you know, at the end of a job. You know, it's just load all your pallets in, bring the trailer, load the machine in the trailer, and haul everything out in one load versus a couple days.
That's
to
awesome.
Haul different, you know, leftover pavers and leftover bags of stuff.
That's one thing that we never got into at Tussey was the switch and go thing.
Yeah, I think it's a new, you know, revelation. I mean, it's not a new
Well,
system.
what
but
I was
it's a
going to say about it is
revelation.
like what I like about it is you can get so much more done with smaller equipment.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to have a machine that can dump over the edge.
Yep.
You can just dump
Yep.
it to get down on the ground, and it's
Yep.
low, and even the
Yep.
smallest little, you know, ditch switch.
Even on spring cleanups, like drop it down, you know, dump your mulch, drop it down, you can wheel right into it. You
Oh,
don't,
yeah.
You don't need ramps.
You're not working off of a exactly.
And so that's a safety thing too, and you're not jumping up and down on
Slipping on a wet.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I've been there before. It's not fun. Yeah.
It's definitely happened.
Yeah, that's like the switch and go is efficient, and then you know renting different size machines, excavators for the job for what job I'm on. If I'm on
Yeah.
a small job, get a smaller excavator. If I'm setting 2,000-pound boulders, I'll get a bigger, more efficient machine for that.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the deal of
So is your one-man band model, like, would you call it an intentional thing? And I know we were talking a little bit about, but would you call it an intentional thing? You want to keep it that way? Or is it more that's just where I'm at right now, I'm on a track to, like, my vision is to do what?
It's kind of an intermediary thing here of just, have time for my family, with the 2 little kids that we have time for that. And, eventually when the right person comes around, to have another guy or 2 and kind of keep that small, 2 to 3 man crew type thing. Maybe in 5 years have ideally, 2 to 3 guys, running full time would be nice. But, it's efficient with me, myself, and I.
It is, yeah. Can't argue with
and
that.
extremely flexible.
Yeah.
To be with the kids or be with the family or go camping and do what we want to do.
Yeah, there's pros and cons with every model. Like as a one-man band, you have that flexibility, but then it also means like if you are out for whatever reason, there's no production happening.
There's nothing getting done.
And so at the end of the day, I don't necessarily feel like there's a model that's like necessarily wrong or right.
Yeah.
It's just more of a preference / the lifestyle you want to live or how you want to, family, whatever. Because you can take any of these models and really optimize them to serve you if you're intentional about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just a here and now thing that allows me to free up time, and it's tiring coming home at night and transactions and QuickBooks and that and sending out a quote or following up on emails but that's part of where I'm at right now. And making the most of both work and family time. And make it all work and make everybody happy at the same time.
The flexibility is nice. And sure, you could say another path of flexibility is building up to the point where you have people that can execute your playbooks, execute your processes, and you're not the one doing the work, you're building the systems and processes that do the work, which is something I preach a lot. But obviously you're not really into that yet as a smaller company like that. But that's another path to that flexibility. For you as the owner, is having a team that does the execution. You just manage from one step removed from the actual work.
Maybe one, but I'm always had that like technician mindset
Yes.
of like I want to touch that stone, and so letting go is hard.
It
but
is.
One day maybe, but it's maybe having somebody do some of those back end things like we talked about with look at the transactions and send invoices and
protect your time to be where it's the most effective.
Like I don't like
There's no reason you should be categorizing transactions in QuickBooks.
No, I hate that.
That's a $10 or $20 task, and your business is not necessarily making revenue when that's happening.
No, it's despite doing, I hate doing that at 10 o'clock at night when I'm trying to go to bed. I'm like, I got 68 transactions to go through. I'm like, but here we are. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
That's on my list to implement probably this year. Find a way to implement that in the business. So
like having someone manage the admin.
Yeah, and that frees up some time at home to
right
to be more present.
Are you aware or have you heard of Cycle CPA?
Yeah, I just haven't reached out yet.
Okay, sure. I mean, I would say they're probably, for what it sounds like you need, they're probably the best, fit for that kind of like, hey, just make this work and stay on top of it.
In between them and my account, like that's the kind of in between my accountant.
Well, they could be your accountant straight up, or they could just do your daily bookkeeping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on my list. The list of this long of things to follow up on. And
now, if you're looking for something that's really like advanced, fine-tuned, very involved, like Stephanie Kauser, like Andy Mortar's sister that does the freelance bookkeeping, she just started that. She's got a good thing going. Yeah. She's really, really good.
Me myself, it's not a difficult background.
Yeah.
But it's also the more I understand. And so know your numbers. It's more for me understanding the numbers. Like I know what my numbers are for the business, but it's understanding, And
what story is that data telling you?
Yes, that's where I need some help with.
Yeah. Because data tells a story.
Yeah.
Numbers are meaningless until you can draw a narrative from them.
Yeah.
Which kind of connects to something I've said before, which is like, I only want the data that helps me make a better decision tomorrow. Everything else is white noise. Because why do I want to incur the admin burden of collecting data that it's not helping me make a better decision tomorrow?
What am I doing with
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just dead weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's on the list of this year is to understand how that can help me.
Yeah.
I know my numbers, but understanding the numbers is kind of where I'm at.
I like that. I like that distinction because there definitely is a difference.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
One word.
Yeah. You can know that the number is XYZ, but what's understanding the story is different. What would you say has been the most difficult challenge in your business journey? Getting
started on the right foot, trying to get in the door with the right jobs and creating that portfolio. Like there's one thing of getting your name out there, but it's getting your name out there that, what the work you want to do, like this job, and not just, Mrs. Jones landscaping. I want more jobs like this. And so what people do I need to meet and talk to get jobs, like this? And how do I market myself? Everything's word of mouth now. So I'm not paying for anything, but I am paying for it in one way or another. Finding my niche and staying in that and not, doing these trying to say no to these smaller jobs and take the more profitable, bigger jobs.
Yeah, protecting your calendar.
Yeah.
Protecting, like you got X number of months. And protecting those months to be your most profitable or your most high revenue jobs and saying no to everything else. Because like it's easy, without being intentional or thinking through it, it's very easy to get into a position where you're busy, really busy, and you feel good because the calendar's full, but it's full of all the wrong, it's full of all the wrong stuff.
And those smaller ones, especially by myself, is hard. Like there's so much
logistics.
Gear up and gear up and do it and then break down.
Yeah.
And so, if I can be on a job for a month, it's much easier. Get everything there, do it, and move on.
Yeah.
Where if I'm there for a week, it's bringing the machines, bringing flagstone, bringing river rock and mulch and plants, and so it adds up and really decreases that revenue per man hour on that. And so that's one thing I've learned is it's hard to say no to jobs, even if the schedule's not full, but it's sometimes saying no.
The ability to say no is really linked to your deal flow. Like if you feel like you're not getting leads, man, that's really tough.
Yeah, and it's hard, or even in it being in a neighborhood or word of mouth, you don't want to say no to those people, but because it's closing the door on that lead, which may lead to more. But it's a fine line. It's a fine line of saying no. Knowing when to.
Knowing when to say no, and to do that, you have to not feel needy or desperate.
Yeah.
Or like you're, I gotta get, if the moment that comes across, I mean, that affects everything about the way you show up in the sales process,
Yeah.
the second guessing yourself when you're looking at that number and it's higher than you thought it was gonna be, everything.
Yeah.
So not being needy is
Yeah, I like
it's a big
that.
thing, but it's not. It's not as simple as just saying, "Oh, I'm not going to be needy." Well, you got to be you got to have or desperate. You got to have the lead flow.
Yeah.
You got to have that confidence.
And it's easier for me to stay ahead of the game because I'm myself, and I don't need to keep a crew busy. I can be a little bit more selective as long as I have.
There's
that
less production capacity to fill.
I don't need that big of a gap, and I don't need that big number to keep people busy.
Because there's definitely the aspect of once, let's say a company that grows really quickly and adds crews, you create a monster. Like you gotta feed the beast.
You gotta feed the beast, yeah.
And so like when it's working, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But you gotta have the deal flow. Like so the lead flow, you gotta have that marketing. So and as you grow and scale, it depends on your market and what kind of clientele you serve, but they're definitely, if you're only relying on word of mouth and that's the only source that you have, what I see is when things kind of, swing one way or swing the other way with the economy, you're volatile right with it.
Yeah.
And if you're getting more leads than you need, and the demand is way high, just say no more. But then if you've built the marketing engine to give you those leads, that you can maybe just start saying no less when the time is.
When the time's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one step I feel is important to getting to that point where you're not feeling like I got to get this job because if I don't, then I don't have.
Yeah. And very fortunate in the past 4 years I haven't felt that way.
Sure.
The time will come.
Which this is a good market too.
It'll come. Yeah. There's a lot of people. A lot of contractors out there, but and separating yourself. I don't often go against other contractors. And that's a good thing for me, but it's also hard when I do go against other people and differentiating myself in that aspect.
What would you say, let's say you do come up against another contractor, what's your approach? How do you work on differentiating yourself?
I kind of emphasize the fact that I am me, myself, and I, and that you're getting the person that's designing it, that's building it, and that understands how to maintain it. And that you're getting a much more custom job with me and my hands crafting it than, the whisper down the lane effect from the designer to the salesperson to the foreman to the laborer that's there. And that's kind of where I try to differentiate myself. And it's, I've won some jobs going against other people, but that's kind of, that small knit.
Your clients are buying the craftsman.
Yeah.
They're buying the artist.
And they see the value in that.
Right.
And there's been one or two people that don't understand.
Yeah, there's clients that they're not going to care.
And that's fine. I did the job, did a great job, and just move on and don't make a big deal about it. But
so you're gonna win deals where the homeowner kind of takes a lot of pride in their home and they want that touch, to everything that they do.
And they rely on you as to understand what to do and then make their house look different from their neighbors that just got done.
Yeah.
And see the difference.
Yeah.
So that's where I try to be.
What is one of the best pieces of advice that you've been given?
Probably, I guess two. Maybe just keep it the acronym KISS. Keep it stupid, simple, simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And just there's enough time in a day for everything. There's a deadline on this job, but if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. Just one day at a time, and don't put the cart before the horse and try to do too much because then you get nothing done.
Yeah.
I'm going to go run this load and go there and go dump and go back and it just sometimes it's just I'm just going to stay here. If I get done early, it's early. I'm not going to start adding two things. And same goes with processes. Just keep it simple.
I like what you're saying is reminding me of a little video clip I saw of an Elon Musk clip. He's talking about his process for product development, and he was just saying how engineers tend to optimize things that shouldn't even exist. And so the first step is to simplify and make the requirements less dumb, is how he said it. And the idea, he was saying, the way that you know that you're cutting it back enough or simplifying enough is when you're adding stuff back in 10% of the time. If you're never adding stuff back in because you simplified too much, then you're not cutting hard enough. I was like, That's really brilliant. And it applies differently across different things. But
Yeah.
in product development, like what we do in software, that is so true.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
can imagine.
And in processes for business, I would say it's the same thing. The temptation is you kind of like, you pick off the scab on the volcano and you start like, okay, I'm gonna do processes.
Yeah.
And then you get into a thing where it's like analysis paralysis.
Yep,
Like you
that's-
over-engineer it.
Yeah.
And where you'd be much wiser or you'd benefit much more by just going to what is the mainstream happy path that we have to solve in a process? Yeah, but what if that's infinite. Stop it, you know?
Yeah, you could always what if.
Yeah.
What if. And yeah, paralysis analysis is just like the getting ready to get ready. And it's like, all right, well, like
The meeting before the meeting.
Yeah, I have to get ready to go do what I'm going to do. But, you know, also being by myself, I have to think about how am I going to get this job done in this time?
Yeah.
So it is, you know, thinking about how you're doing things and being, you know, efficient with your time, but not overcomplicating.
Yep.
things. And I'm not sending people to the moon. You know, we're putting plants in the ground, and you know, the world will still spin. You know, if I don't get that last paver in,
Yeah.
it's just having fun with it.
Yeah.
That's it. You know.
What about if you could go back to when you started your business? So what's one thing you'd do differently?
Not too much. Not too much. I like where I'm at. You know.
Is there anything that you wish you'd have done sooner?
I guess having SynkedUP from the beginning would have been helpful, just to have everything integrated, you know, sooner.
Which you did it pretty soon after.
I did it the second year, and
Okay,
that was just waiting to make sure. Okay, this is where I'm going.
Yeah,
this is what I'm doing. Because I knew I knew you guys from the beginning, like the very beginning, and followed along, and knew that was something I was interested in. But just wanted to wait, you know, make sure that's the business is where I was going with things. But not too much I would change. I think I bought the ditch witch. I bought that in the second year.
Okay.
That's huge. It's huge. That was huge. You know, not wheelbarrowing things. And, you know, I'm setting myself up for where I need to be.
Yeah.
Buying the right pieces of equipment. You know, waiting to get what I want versus just getting something. You're getting that cheaper stand-on skid steer that's not as good, but waiting for the ditch witch and waiting for the switch and go. You know, saving that money up for that.
Yeah, my great grandpa had a saying where like, you do without until you can afford the best. Like buying the cheap, it's sour every time.
Yeah.
It's actually more expensive.
It is.
In the long
It
run.
is. Yeah, because you have to either fix what went bad,
Or it's not as
that
good,
lost
it's not as
that lost
efficient.
productivity.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
And it's just the same thing I do with clients is, okay, we want to do this whole walkway, but we can't do it all. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then we'll just go with the cheaper guy. Well, I'm like, let's just wait. Let's do the walkway, and then we'll do the plants in the spring. And we'll do plants and lights in the spring, and just kind of phase it out, and that helps.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with me. Just wait until you're ready, and rent those different excavators until you're ready to buy an excavator with a spinny thing on it.
There it is.
One day.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah.
One day.
So obviously, when you sign on for a new product like SynkedUP, there's a bit of faith and trust that I think this is going to be the right thing, but it's not bulletproof yet, or it's not proven yet. What was the moment after you bought SynkedUP that you realized, like, oh yeah, like okay, this is essential. I have to have this for my business.
The proposals side of things and how that streamlines the customer's point of view. You know, they can get it on their computer. They don't have to sign in to some company, have a password. They get the link, they view it, and they can accept it or ask questions. And then it's making those changes. You know, hey, let's, put the path lights on hold. Okay, just don't approve it, and it's still in there for when we want to do that next spring. And then next spring comes and goes, and I update my pricing list, and next thing all I need to do is just hit update on the items.
Yep.
And it's sent right back out.
Yep.
And so that proposal system is very helpful and easy. I'm not a proposal production machine.
Sure.
I don't send a lot out, but it's nice to be able to not have that take up a lot of my time. And have the blanket the blanket templates, like a landscape template, a walkway template, a retaining wall template, of wording, as well as the template in the item catalog as well. But the proposals was the most powerful for me.
It's like the aha moment. Like, yeah.
It's just like the budget and all of that's great, but it's it was just taking my system and putting it into the budget and figuring out how your system worked, which wasn't very difficult, but that wasn't eye-opening to me.
Right.
I knew
you had your head wrapped around that already.
I had spreadsheets and I knew where I was at.
Yeah.
It was just making my system work with your system.
Sure. So the convenience around the proposals and having that templates. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not there yet with like the templates and man hours or
the production
rates. Not there yet because a lot of I'm just not there yet with that. I don't know why. One day I'll get there with understanding that, but
it's 1% better every day. And that's the other temptation to resist, is that it can feel like, well, about the production rates, so you feel like, well, man, I'm horrible. I'm not going to get done. It can be the battle in your head. But I encourage people, like, listen, just like kind of like the simple processes, just 1% better every day. Like, don't try to boil the ocean. And climb the ladder, and 6 months later you look up and you're like, wow, or a year later you look up and be like, man, where if you try to get everything done at once, and there's people that do a lot in one shot when they're doing a radical shift about the way they run their business, and that I'm not discouraging that. All I'm saying is, don't feel overwhelmed or like you're inadequate or you're doing it wrong when
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
This winter I worked on that template and getting all my wordings for the landscaping and like I said, patios and that, and so probably next year we'll
do the
delve
production
into
rate.
the production rate.
Which it'll be nice because now you have a year or two of runtime under the hood, and you'll be able to go back and actually get some real meaningful production rates out of it. Yeah. No, that's good. A lot of one-man, even 2, 3, 4, 5-man companies that I talk to tell me like, oh yeah, well I'm not big enough yet for a software product. Like that's for companies with multiple crews, blah, blah, blah. What would you say to those people? Like why is it worth it to pay $400 a month for a software?
I think it makes life easier. It makes life quicker. You don't have to worry about as many things. I guess maybe because I don't use Zapier and all the integrations, and I just like keep it simple, and I don't ask it to do too many things, and I use it for the proposals, I use it for the invoicing, and that's it. I don't try to get too much out of it. But I think the job costing is great on it for understanding how you did, so that you can put that next bid out more efficiently, so that where you went wrong. And that's a lot of what the things I do. Like this was the first kitchen I built. I didn't know how long this kitchen was going to take. I kind of nailed it right on, but next one may not be that way. But at least I have a frame of reference of how much it cost, and I think that's helpful in understanding the next project.
It is, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head.
And that's can I tell you a specific dollar amount of how it saved me? I don't know, but I can tell you that I know for the next kitchen what to do next.
And that
I know for the
is
next
huge.
patio, flagstone patio, how long that took me to lay. I know for the next time.
And building that data of history is huge. Because, and that's where like to your point, that's where it's worth the money. Because let's say that you didn't get that kitchen right on. Let's say you were off by 30% on the man hours, which totally can happen. But let's say you're like, you and let's say you don't have the data, like you didn't track in SynkedUP or anything. Like, it took a little longer than I thought, but you don't really ever look at the numbers or anything, or don't have the data, and you move on and get the next job done and get the next job done. And what's happening is you're never learning.
And you're compounding.
It just keeps compounding, and that's where it turns into thousands and tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of dollars of lost opportunity for even a small company.
It doesn't take much.
No.
And that compounding, that definitely affects that.
It basically means that you're doomed to build the kitchen wrong next year and again next year and again next year. And if you know how we are as entrepreneurs, like I just kind of go by gut feel or seat of my pants.
That's what it was. This whole job, never built a job this big, and that's kind of where it started. And then it's like you get back, and I think I was under by like 2% or something.
That's impressive.
On this big of a, and never would have imagined
That's
that.
impressive. But you know, I like the way Alex Hormozy, I think it's Alex Hormozy that says the price of failure is learning the lesson. Meaning, like, failure is not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is if you fail, you don't learn the lesson or don't have the data to do better next time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard estimating things that you've never built before.
Yeah, that is really hard.
It's not like everyone does it every day. You know, I'm not building cookie cutter patios. Like, it's going to happen. The next job is going to be something different.
Well,
you know?
Kudos to you on leaning in and seeing the value and tracking that data, even in your early years.
Yeah.
You know, like that's very commendable, and it's something that the average contractor, frankly, doesn't think doesn't either consider the impact or doesn't view it as important. So, you know, that's commendable, and you deserve a lot of kudos for that. And
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for putting your faith and trust in us.
Yeah, no, it's relieving to have a little bit more time at the end of the day, you know, for the family and doing other things that we want to do. You know, that extra time, not typing up that invoice and doing that, you know, is nice to have at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we'll have more time at the end of this year, hopefully, implementing those back end things.
Yeah.
That's the ever-working goal.
Creating that margin in life is ultimately what it's about. The business should serve you, not the other way around.
Yeah,
You know?
And that's kind of where I started from the beginning. I'm not going to let this control me. Do I not work every weekend? No. Do I work a weekend here and there because but I try not to work Saturdays because that's the day for the family that we have together, and try to make that the most of it.
Yeah, cool. Where can people find you?
Instagram, Facebook, website, Robinson Outdoors LLC. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Well, thanks for having me out to your job site.
Yeah, this is cool. We gotta go check the front.
Yeah, let's go get some footage of the front. What's going on out there?
Awesome.
Okay.
Sounds good.